So you are going to begin with a piece of colored paper, and I'm working on a large piece here. You might have a smaller piece. But you want to draw a pumpkin shape. Now, I'm not looking for an exact perfect pumpkin because no pumpkin is perfect. They all kind of have their own weird little curves and bumps and shapes to them, but I'm going to show you just the basics of how to draw a pumpkin. So I'm going to start by drawing an oval. Okay, so you want to start at the top of the oval, and you're going to make a curved line that goes down to the bottom of the oval. So kind of like you're drawing a big letter C. And then you want to do that one more time. And if you want this to look really wide, like a big long pumpkin, you could do that. Or if you want it to have like a little curve in it, you can do that. I think I'm going to have mine a little curve in it, and then it comes back down. So almost like a little wavy line there. And then you do the same thing on this side of your oval. So now I'm going to draw a backwards letter C. And then a wavy line. And that's going to be the shape of my pumpkin. So it's not perfect, and that's how I like it. And then I'm going to make a type of stem for it. And I want mine to be a little curved. And I'll draw some little texture marks there. After you draw your pumpkin, you are going to want to cut it out. After you cut it out, you are going to want to add some dots. Now, this is where you can choose your media. So, depending on what you have, you can use markers, you can use paints, you could use crayons, you could use a combination of all of those things. So I'm going to demonstrate kind of a combination. Now, when we add these dots, you want to think about variety in size. Some should be small, some should be larger. And maybe if you even want to think of patterns, like going small, big, small, big, small, big, or small, medium, big, small, medium, big, however you want to do it. And you can even make like each section of your pumpkin a different type of dot, or you can do them all the same. There's a lot of different ways to make this your own. So I think I'm going to start right here in the middle, and I'm going to do a small dot and then a big dot. Small dot, big dot. And I'm going to like go across to create that pattern. And then I'm going to come down, I'm going to do it again here. Small dot, big dot. Now this process should take a little bit of time. Do not rush this and make your dots sloppy. Okay, so that is what it looks like with crayon. I like that look a lot. If you want to use a marker, it's going to show up a little different because you're using a colored sheet of paper. So if you chose a dark color, like a dark blue or a dark violet or even black, it's not going to show up very well with marker, so you might want to skip marker and just stick with crayons. If you're using a super dark color, like a white crayon would look really pretty on top of a dark color. But my color is this light sort of violet, so it's not too dark, so that's why some things are showing up a little better here on my end. Now with marker, here if I do, maybe I'll do this outside section with marker. That's going to show up, but it's just not going to be as bright as it would be if this was white paper. But it's still showing up and it still looks nice. So here I'm just doing the same size dot over and over and over again. Okay, and if you want to use paints, so if you have the kinds of paint that you pour, you could use a paintbrush, or here I'm going to use a Q-tip. And you can add in those dots. Now, if you don't have this kind of paint, you can use watercolor paint and get these wet with a brush, and you can do little dots with the tip of your brush. There's many different ways to do this assignment. You basically want your pumpkin covered in dots, but you want there to still be like an order to it. It shouldn't look like chaos of dots. Going back in because I think I need a little more here on the edges, and I'm going to use some marker. But be careful if you're going back in to add a little more details, because all my paint is wet right now, so it's a little tricky. So I don't accidentally lay my hand in some wet paint. It's going to cause a mess on my hand, and it's going to probably mess up my beautiful artwork. So I am having to go very, very gently here. I am also going to put a few dots up in my stem, and I think I'm going to just do that with my white paint. Alright, so since I use paint, I have to wait for mine to dry. If you did not use paint, you don't have to wait for yours to dry. So while you're waiting for your pumpkin to dry, or if you didn't use paints, it's already good to go. So you could glue it down on a larger sheet of colored paper and then decorate the paper, or you could decorate the paper and then glue it down, depending on if your work is wet or not. So mine is actually dry because I waited a bit of time in between here. So I'm going to take a glue bottle, flip my pumpkin over, and give it a frame of glue. Now, in the background space, I'm going to want to add some designs. So my paper that I'm using for my background space is pretty dark, so I'm going to be using a white crayon, and I have a silver colored pencil here that I'm going to use. So whatever you have available to you, you can choose to use. Now, in my background space, if you want to do it all pattern, you can, or you can like maybe give your pumpkin so it looks like it's sitting on a surface. If you wanted to, you could maybe draw a line on either side of your pumpkin so it looks like it's on a type of surface, and maybe I'll do some patterns down here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a lot with triangles, zigzag lines, very angular types of lines. So when I talk about angles, I mean kind of very sharp lines, not very curved. So I'm going to be playing with this. So a lot of straight lines that are being slanted. These are diagonals, having them go back up towards each other, zigzag, chompy teeth. So I'm going to play around here and create this whole bottom part with these angular lines. Okay, so there is that there at the bottom, and then on the top, I might do the same thing, or you can change up your pattern and your design. Depends on how you want your artwork to look here. So if you wanted to change pattern and maybe do stripes or curved lines or more polka dots, because our artist we are looking at has a lot of polka dots in her work, you get to decide here. So I want to see just whatever you feel you need for your artwork here. So I think I need to take a moment and think about what I want to do, and then I'm going to get to it. Alright, so I'm exploring here with my patterns. So you can see I created stripes, and then within every other stripe I'm creating even more patterns. So I'm creating complex patterns. So that means they're a little more complicated than your normal just sort of A, B pattern. So like square, triangle. I'm definitely playing with design here. And so I'm going to keep playing around until I feel that I have got a full complete artwork, and then I can be finished. Alright, so I think I'm happy with this design here, so I'm going to call myself complete. So here is our really interesting pumpkin still life artwork.